In 1930, Uruguay hosted the very first World Cup. 13 nations, no television deal. Several European teams crossed the Atlantic by boat just to get there. It was football's attempt at a world championship. By 2022, 5 billion people had engaged with the same tournament. The final was watched by 1.5 billion people in a single night. The 2026 edition is projected to generate over $10 billion in revenue. Brands like Coca-Cola, Adidas, and Visa each pay an estimated $70 million to $100 million just for the right to attach their name to it. How did a football tournament become the most powerful brand in sports? So what happened between 1930 and now? How does a modest tournament with no broadcast deal become the most powerful commercial platform in all of sports? This is that story.
Brand history.
40 years before the World Cup became a global brand machine, it was something far simpler. Jules Rimet, FIFA president from 1921 to 1954, launched the tournament with a genuine belief football could help unite the world after the devastation of the First World War. In Uruguay in 1930, 13 nations showed up to compete. Several European teams nearly didn't bother because the ocean crossing took 2 weeks each way. There was no mascot, no unified visual identity, and no broadcast deal. The trophy itself, a gold-plated statuette of the Greek goddess of victory, was elegant, but it wasn't built for branding purposes. For the next 3 decades, the World Cup existed mostly as a regional affair. Massive in Europe and South America, largely unknown everywhere else. Television began to shift things. The 1954 tournament in Switzerland established the first proper unified emblem displayed consistently across official materials. A small step, but meaningful. The World Cup now had a visual identity to protect. Then came 1966. England hosted the tournament and introduced the very first mascot in World Cup history, World Cup Willie, a lion dressed in the Union Jack. 1966. World Cup Willie, the first mascot in tournament history. It seems like a footnote now, but it was a signal. Someone had started treating the World Cup like a brand, and someone else was watching very closely. Up to this point, FIFA had operated like a gentleman's sporting federation that was about to flip completely. In 1974, a Brazilian lawyer named João Havelange ran for FIFA president. A former Olympic water polo player and swimmer, Havelange was ambitious, globally connected, and carrying a vision for football that nobody sitting in Zurich had yet dared articulate. João Havelange, FIFA president 1974 to 1998. His pitch: expand the World Cup, open it to developing nations across Africa, Asia, and the Americas, and grow the game into a truly global institution. The developing football nations gave him the votes. He won. But expanding the tournament cost money, and Havelange needed to deliver fast. But here's the detail that everyone missed at the time. Horst Dassler was waiting. Dassler was the son of Adi Dassler, the founder of Adidas. He had spent years outfitting football teams and building relationships with federation officials worldwide. And he had a commercial idea that nobody had fully executed in professional sport yet. The concept was straightforward, but its impact was enormous. Instead of letting companies buy random advertising space near a stadium, you bundle every commercial right into one exclusive package. The perimeter advertising, the official supplier designation, the right to use the FIFA World Cup logo in your marketing, all of it, and you sell that bundle to a handful of multinational corporations at premium prices. The exclusivity is what creates the value. You couldn't just pay to be near the World Cup anymore. You had to be chosen. Dassler introduced Havelange to Patrick Nally, a British sports marketing pioneer who had developed this model. Together, they built it from the ground up. By the 1982 World Cup in Spain, Nally had constructed what he called the Intersoccer 4 package, bundling World Cup commercial rights with other major UEFA competitions and selling the entire suite to multinational brands as an exclusive offering. FIFA went from barely covering its costs to building a genuine revenue engine. That same year, Dassler founded ISL, International Sport and Leisure, based in Switzerland. ISL operated effectively as FIFA's private commercial division, handling media rights and sponsorship programs for multiple World Cups through the 1980s and into the 1990s. ISL founded 1982, FIFA's first private commercial arm. Brands like Coca-Cola, MasterCard, and Adidas were no longer advertisers renting space near a football pitch. They were official partners in the biggest sporting event on Earth. and that designation was worth far more than any billboard. Most people never heard about this part. They see the logos at a World Cup and assume the arrangement has always existed. It hadn't. It was built deliberately, over roughly a decade, by 3 men with a commercial vision and a football federation willing to let them run. The commercial machine only works if what it's selling is visually powerful, and FIFA learned that lesson in 1970. The tournament in Mexico was the first World Cup broadcast in color via satellite to a global audience. The world didn't just watch football that year. It watched a spectacle: vivid green pitches, brightly colored kits, a visual scale that TV made feel genuinely enormous. But 1970 also created a practical problem. Brazil had just won the World Cup for the 3rd time, which meant they permanently kept the Jules Rimet trophy. The most iconic object in football now belonged to someone else, so FIFA commissioned a replacement. Italian sculptor Silvio Gazzaniga was chosen from 53 design submissions from 7 different countries. His creation, 2 human figures, arms raised, holding up the earth, made of 18-karat gold, standing 36.8 centimeters tall. The trophy debuted in 1974, the same year Havelange took office. I mean, think about that for a second. New president, new trophy. Same year, 1974. The new president and the new trophy arrived together, and FIFA made one decision about this new one that changed its meaning completely. No team would ever own it permanently. Winners would receive a gold-plated replica. The original would stay with FIFA. The trophy was no longer just a prize. It was intellectual property, FIFA's most valuable piece of brand identity. By 1994, the commercial architecture was ready to be tested at scale. The 1994 World Cup in the United States was unlike anything FIFA had attempted before. 10 major corporations signed on as official sponsors, including Coca-Cola, MasterCard, General Motors, and McDonald's. ISL had transformed what was previously loose patronage into a tightly structured, exclusive commercial platform. 1994. 3.5 million of 3.65 million tickets sold before the tournament began. Pay attention to this next detail, because it explains everything. Los Angeles alone generated $620 million in profit from hosting the World Cup final. The Super Bowl had generated $440 million less in the same city that same year. Total profits across the tournament reached $1.45 billion. FIFA had also attached a condition to giving the United States the tournament. The Americans were required to establish a professional top-tier football league within 2 years. Major League Soccer launched in 1996. The World Cup hadn't just sold sponsorships, it had used its brand authority to reshape the football infrastructure of the world's largest economy. No other sporting event had ever done anything comparable. After 1994, the commercial model accelerated year by year. The 2006 World Cup in Germany attracted 15 million more visitors than originally forecast. Sponsoring companies collectively sold around $3 billion worth of products during the tournament period. The final was watched by 715 million television viewers worldwide. 2019 to 2022 revenue cycle. TV rights alone earned FIFA $3.43 billion. During the 4-year revenue cycle ending in 2022, television broadcasting rights alone earned FIFA $3.43 billion, roughly half of the federation's total income. Total revenues for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar reached $7.57 billion. The 2022 final between France and Argentina was watched by 1.5 billion people in a single broadcast. And no, I'm not making that up. Every Super Bowl ever played has been watched by roughly 115 million Americans. The World Cup final drew more than 10 times that figure, globally, in one night. But 2022 was not the ceiling. What FIFA had been building toward was already underway in North America. The 2026 World Cup is, by design, the largest commercial event in the history of sport. For the first time, the tournament spans 3 host nations: the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The format expands from 32 to 48 teams, and from 64 matches to 80. Every additional match is an additional broadcast window, an additional sponsorship activation, and additional inventory. 2026 projected revenue: over $10.9 billion. Total revenues are projected to exceed $10.9 billion, a 56% increase from Qatar 2022. American brands now account for 52% of World Cup sponsorship revenue. The value of U.S. media rights jumped 94% compared to 2022. Bank of America, DoorDash, and American Airlines have joined legacy partners Adidas, Coca-Cola, and Visa. Even the visual identity signals how much has changed. The 2026 logo is the first in tournament history where the actual FIFA World Cup trophy is depicted at the center of the design. Not implied, not stylized. The trophy itself as the anchor. This decision seemed small. It wasn't. It is a statement about what the World Cup has become. The brand is no longer something that exists alongside the tournament. The brand is the tournament. Jules Rimet launched the World Cup in 1930 because he genuinely believed football could help unite the world. A modest ambition, a simple idea. What he couldn't have anticipated was that an Adidas heir, a British marketing consultant, and a succession of determined FIFA presidents would take that idea and build it into the most commercially powerful event in human history. The World Cup story isn't unique. It's a blueprint for how a sport becomes a brand, how a brand becomes a cultural institution, and how a cultural institution can eventually become its own economy.